Meghan Markle's fakery with British Airways has just been exposed. When all else fails, when everything is going disastrously wrong, there's always a stunt involving an airplane. She is one of the worst passengers to ever travel on their airline. She was rude to the air hostesses, she tried to get upgrades, that was before she met Prince Harry, and she refused to even look after Archie on the flight, and he was crying for a long time before the nannies got involved.
Meghan's British Airways anniversary card was addressed to Harry. There's one problem. The 18th of May, 2026, a British Airways 777, BA 269, rolling out of Heathrow. The premium cabin has one A-list passenger. Her name is on the manifest. Her husband's name is not. 6 hours in, someone on board hands Meghan a card. It's addressed to Dearest Harry and Meghan. A captain has signed it, a bottle of champagne sitting right next to it. How touching. But before anyone says the crew was just being sweet, hold up. The detail that makes this card impossible to take at face value isn't anyone's opinion. It's the card itself. Read it properly. 3 things on this card. The third one isn't even printed on it. It's sitting on British Airways' own website. None of them alone proves the moment was set up, but all 3 together, the whole spontaneous gesture story falls apart fast. By the next morning, that card was up on Meghan's Instagram.
We're merching our own wedding too. This is all extraordinary stuff, especially the fact that she claims that the British Airways crew on her flight from Europe back to Los Angeles just happened to know that it was her 8th wedding anniversary and just happened to write her this card expressing what a delight she is on the flight.
People magazine dropped the exclusive that same afternoon. Hello ran it. GB News ran it. The Sussex camp made sure your feed saw it. Stay with me, we're going through each detail. In the exact order the airline's own paperwork lays it out. Some context before we crack this card open. The day before BA 269 pushed back, Meghan was standing at a podium in Geneva, speaking to the World Health Organization about what social media does to young people. Next morning, she flew from Switzerland to Heathrow. There's no direct flight from Geneva to Los Angeles. She transited through Terminal 5 and connected onto BA 269 for the 1-2-hour leg home. Per the Heathrow flight page and FlightAware records, both sitting there for anyone to pull up the flight, pushed back 26 minutes late and touched down in Los Angeles at 7:25 p.m. Pacific. Solo journey. Solo arrival. Solo Instagram post the next morning.
She posted this weird picture getting ready to leave for the event on cyberbullying, and the whole event was about protecting your kids from social media, and I guess she doesn't see the hypocrisy that she's posting her kid on social media.
Harry has said repeatedly and recently that he does not go back to the United Kingdom. He was not photographed at Heathrow that week. People magazine does not place him on the flight. Hello does not place him on the flight. GB News, in its follow-up, treats Meghan's stop through London as hers alone, calling it a secret appearance on British soil, in their words. So here's what we're looking at, Meghan. Traveling alone, 1-2-hour flight, premium cabin, heading back from a Geneva podium straight to Montecito. Around 300 other passengers on that plane, a full flight crew, a captain whose name in just a moment is going to matter quite a lot. What she didn't have on that flight, by any read of the public record, was her husband. By the morning of the 19th, the card was on her Instagram. By that same afternoon, People magazine had already published their exclusive with quotes, attributed to a source close to the Duchess of Sussex, between BA 269's wheels hitting the tarmac at LAX and that People article going live. Somewhere between 12 and 18 hours had passed. What we know happened in that window. One Instagram post. What else went down in that window? Only the people who set up that People magazine briefing know. Keep that in your head, because that's the exact context in which the first thing on this card starts falling apart. Thing 1, the addressing. Read the card. It says, Dearest Harry and Meghan. Not dearest Meghan.
She leaks to People magazine, her propagandists at People magazine, that this was the crew, the British Airways crew, and she was just so touched that they loved her so much. Here's the article. Meghan Markle was moved by the kindness of a British Airways flight crew who helped ring in her wedding anniversary with Prince Harry.
Not dearest Duchess of Sussex. Not dear Mrs. Sussex. Best wishes from the BA 269 crew. It says, dearest Harry and Meghan, as if both of them were buckled into seats 1A and 1B. Now think about what cabin crew actually do when they want to make a passenger feel special. They write that passenger's name. They address the person sitting right in front of them. They don't, as a rule, pre-address a card to someone who, by everyone's account, isn't even on the aircraft, unless they were briefed in advance. Unless they were told this was for an anniversary. Unless someone handed them a name to copy onto a blank card pulled from the supply cupboard. Which raises a very straightforward question: how did the British Airways crew know, before that flight took off, or at least before that card was finalized, that the right inscription was Harry and Meghan, plural, as a couple, on a flight only one of them was taking? The People magazine exclusive published the next day, sourced to a source close to the Duchess of Sussex's, describes a moment where the crew all came over to say happy anniversary and shared their own memories of where they were on that day back in 2018. Sweet image.
The Duke and Duchess of Sussex marked 8 years of marriage on Tuesday and shared a glimpse of the heartfelt gesture she received while travelling home from Geneva, Switzerland the day before. Posting to her Instagram stories, Meghan revealed a handwritten note from the British Airways flight crew thanking them publicly for helping make the occasion special. Thanks to this amazing flight crew for all the love yesterday. Appreciate all your memories and kind words, she wrote, tagging a British Airways alongside a Union Jack emoji.
Genuinely. But the card photograph has them addressing both halves of a couple, and the only published source claiming any of this was spontaneous is one anonymous person, briefed by a publicist, talking to one magazine that has, and we'll get to this in a moment, been the go-to outlet for every single Sussex candid moment since 2017. The card doesn't say, Meghan, congratulations on your anniversary. It says, dearest Harry and Meghan. That's not a small detail. That is the entire shape of who this card was prepared for, and it doesn't match who was actually sitting in that cabin. Now look at the card again. Not just the names, look at the handwriting. The main body of the card is in one style. Careful, looped, deliberate. The captain's note, set apart, is in a completely different hand. At least 2 people put a pen to this card, possibly more. And whoever wrote the main inscription chose to address both halves of a marriage on a flight where one of those halves was nowhere on board. The card did not write itself. That's the first thing. 2 more to go. Thing 2, the captain's note. Set apart from the card body, in a different hand entirely, is a separate inscription. Lovely to have you on board.
The card read, dearest Harry and Meghan, wishing you a wonderful wedding anniversary with love, the whole British Airways family. Covered with signatures and personal notes, it was also marked BA 269 and dated May the 18th. Wait, what? Meghan arranged an anniversary card to be given to her on her flight? She pre-ordered and then gave the exclusive to People magazine?
Congratulations on the anniversary. Signed by the captain, Ed French. Stop and read that like you've never seen a celebrity Instagram post in your life. The captain of a 777 carrying somewhere between 200 and 300 passengers pre-composed a full sentence acknowledging one specific passenger's wedding anniversary. Not a quick happy anniversary scribbled from the cockpit. Not a couple of crew signatures on a card someone else put together. A full, considered captain sign-off that names the occasion directly. Here's the thing captains brief before every single flight. They check the passenger manifest. They are made aware of premium passengers, public figures, dignitaries, and anyone the airline has flagged for special attention or discretion. That's not a theory. That is standard operating procedure on every commercial airline on the planet. British Airways is no exception, and in a moment, we'll show you the document where they spell it out themselves. For Captain Ed French to write that line and know on that specific day that this passenger's wedding anniversary was the very next day, somebody told him. Either Meghan's team briefed British Airways before she ever stepped on board, or British Airways' own internal system pulled up her loyalty profile and surfaced the date automatically, or the captain spent his Sunday evening on his personal device going through his Monday manifest making personal notes. Those are the only 3 possibilities. There is no fourth option.
A source close to the Duchess of Sussex, this is how much she wants people to know about this card, right? Tells people Meghan's flight crew was so lovely. On their way back from Geneva, they all came to say happy anniversary and shared their memories of where they were on the day. I thought Meghan thought the whole thing was horrible. The crew's gesture also included treats for the couple's children. They wrote Harry and Meghan a card and gave them a bottle of champagne and British candies for Harry and the kids, the source adds. It was very special and so appreciated by Meghan, who wanted to publicly thank them. She was truly so touched. So far so suspicious.
Captains do not pull strangers' anniversaries out of thin air 20 minutes before pushback, so the question becomes which one of those 3 things actually happened. And this is where it stops being a guessing game, because British Airways has already told us, in writing, on their own website, exactly how it works. That's the 3rd thing, except it's not on the card at all. The most damaging detail in this entire story is not printed on the card Meghan posted to her 4.5 million followers. It's printed on the airline's own legal page, and anyone can go read it right now. Thing 3, the one not on the card. British Airways has issued 0 on-record statements, either confirming the gesture was spontaneous or denying it was arranged. Complete silence from the carrier. But what British Airways has said on its own website, in its own privacy policy, is exactly how its cabin crews operate. The airline states in print that its crews use executive club data to welcome passengers back on board, meaning they have access to loyalty profiles, personal preferences, travel history, and the personal milestones that frequent flyer programs track for precisely this purpose. The airline has documented, on its own legal page, the exact mechanism that would allow a captain to know a passenger's anniversary and a crew to address a card to both halves of a marriage.
This was really embarrassing. And Toomey on Twitter, she managed to spot that Richie Rich was so used to these cards going around, he's even put his signature on there twice. So obviously there are cards that just get passed around, honestly, and then they all sign it. But yeah,
I think that's a little message from the crew.
She had a card that had just been prepared by Harry and the children, if you remember, with their names all over it. And this is the exact same thing. Meghan wants to prove to the world that she's adored by Harry. She always talks about, that man loves me so much, but then she also does it with the crew.
That mechanism exists. It is on record. British Airways has confirmed it exists themselves. Whether that mechanism was triggered specifically for Meghan's flight, British Airways still has not said. Not in a press release, not on their own channels, not to any of the royal correspondents covering this story. The Daily Mail asked, the Telegraph asked, the Sun asked, the Express asked. British Airways press office returned complete silence. Standard PR practice for an airline getting positive A-list publicity is a confirming statement that amplifies the moment. There has been no confirming statement. The Daily Beast's Tom Sykes, who actually flew to Geneva for the memorial speech, opened his anniversary write-up that week by noting that Meghan had done what Meghan does to mark an anniversary. She posted to Instagram. The royal correspondents who cover the Sussexes for a living had a front-row view in real time of exactly which week's content was running through whose press machine and where every single briefing was landing. Here's where this whole story stops adding up. People magazine, Hello, and every outlet that copy-pasted that same source close to the Duchess of Sussex's line is asking you to believe that a British Airways crew briefed on absolutely nothing spontaneously wrote a card to a couple where only one half of that couple was even on the plane, that the captain just happened to know it was their anniversary, that none of it was prepared, and that you should find it sweet.
She got a fucking card from British Airlines.
And without them realizing or doing the research that anyone can get this fucking card.
Oh,
anyone in the world can go
know.
on there
Yeah.
and get that card and say it's my anniversary.
They probably
just
know,
her-
but they
yeah.
get clicks, right?
Right.
I mean, that's why they're
But
doing it. They're
they're
part
her
of this
PR agent.
Markle,
But
economy.
Even if they did it, even if British Airways went,
cares?
oh my God, it's their anniversary day, we got to get
They
them a
didn't
card.
do it.
No, why would they? Nobody in the fucking crew would give a shit. Like,
No.
you think, oh, Meghan Markle's on the flight list in 2 days, let's get her a card and I'll sign it. That's ridiculous.
No, they'd be in the background saying, let's pee in her
Yeah.
champagne because this
Wipe the
girl
card of my
sucks.
butt. Yeah.
So, boy, what a fail that anniversary was. Oh, what a fail. And how tragic. I mean, 8th anniversary, such a huge anniversary. Oh, my God. All
I know,
this
why?
posting.
Yeah, why are they going over the top for the 8th anniversary? Oh, it's because, like he said, to flood the zone, right?
Do people normally make a big deal out of their 8th anniversary?
No.
Really? What is
A spontaneous gesture from a flight crew the way a fireworks display is spontaneous. The timing is perfect, the colors are right, and somewhere just off camera someone already lit the fuse. But fireworks don't light themselves, and neither did this moment. Let's talk about the media machine that caught this card before it even landed. The Daily Mail's Alison Boshoff watched the same week's content roll out the wedding photo drop, the candle launch, the full anniversary post campaign, and on Palace Confidential on May 22nd, told the audience straight, "I fear this huge candid photo dump was intended to funnel people to the brand, because this year they really have to make money." That line matters more than it sounds. Boshoff isn't a gossip blogger. She is a senior journalist with decades of experience watching how celebrity PR machines operate. When someone at that level looks at a week's content calendar and uses the word funnel, she is not being dramatic. She is being precise. She is describing a strategy content designed not to share a moment, but to move a product, build a pipeline, and convert audience attention into commercial traffic. Richard Eden, sitting right next to her on that same panel, went even further. "I find something slightly repulsive about the way that they're using their children for commercial gain." Two senior Daily Mail journalists, one camera, one panel, both looking at the same week of Sussex output and independently arriving at the same conclusion: this is not organic, this is engineered. And the British Airways card sits right at the center of that engineered week.
I did a whole big whistleblowing thing on this because it was actually, I fly BA all the time. I love BA. They are incredible crew members. And it was actually a whistleblower on board a British Airways flight who first approached me and gave me the information, which made me then start to look into the way that she treated the stuff. And it dated right back, Tash, this is what's interesting about it, before she was with Harry. She had a reputation then because she used to do that thing where she would demand upgrades to first, even sometimes when they weren't available. So she's widely regarded as a passenger who they don't like. Now, do I, I don't want to do down the crew at all. I'm sure they were absolutely delightful to her on board because that is their job. But was this a setup? Well, absolutely it was.
Now here is what makes the card more than just a PR move. It is the specific details that don't hold together under basic scrutiny, not royal watcher scrutiny, not tabloid scrutiny. Basic, common-sense scrutiny that anyone who has ever flown long haul and thought about how airlines actually work can apply themselves. Cabin crews on a 1-2 hour international flight are managing hundreds of passengers. They are running meal services, handling requests, monitoring comfort levels, and responding to the kind of minor emergencies that happen on any long flight with that many people on board. What they are not doing in the middle of all of that, is independently researching the personal milestone calendar of a celebrity passenger and composing a heartfelt anniversary card addressed to both members of a marriage, one of whom is not on the plane. The logistics of that card being spontaneous require a version of events where multiple crew members independently decided to research, compose, and present a personalized anniversary card without any briefing, without any internal flag on the manifest, and without any prior knowledge, while also somehow knowing the absent husband's name belonged on the inscription. That version of events does not survive contact with how airlines actually operate, and British Airways has not claimed it was spontaneous.
And then Tash delivered the receipts. Look at this, because Meghan's just been well and truly rumbled. When booking, this is on BA, you can add a complimentary personalized message for your partner. Let the flight attendants know it is your anniversary when you board, especially if you are celebrating a major milestone like a 10th or 25th anniversary. It is up to the crew's discretion, but they often present couples with a complimentary bottle of bubble and a signed crew card. Since BA does not centrally arrange standalone cards, it is best to bring your own special card on board if you hand it to a crew member.
That is worth saying clearly and slowly. The airline itself has not issued a single statement saying this was an unplanned gesture from a fond crew. The only source for the spontaneous version is anonymous. One person, briefed by a publicist, talking to People magazine. That is the entire foundation on which the heartwarming story was built. Meanwhile, the airline's own privacy policy sitting on their website, available to anyone, documents exactly the mechanism that would make a pre-arranged card entirely straightforward. Executive club profiles, loyalty data, personal milestones flagged in frequent flyer systems for exactly this kind of personalized service. British Airways didn't hide this. They published it. They told their customers this is how their premium service works. The irony is that the document that explains how the card could have been arranged is the airline's own. So, when the Daily Mail asked British Airways for a comment, when the Telegraph asked, when the Sun asked, when the Express asked, and all of them did ask, what came back was silence.
An amazing opportunity for Meghan, right? And what does she do? She, hours before this vital event, Meghan chooses to post a photograph of herself smirking, basically, wearing this kind of very fancy lilac outfit with Lilibet sort of crouched at her feet, sort of worshipping her, oh, mummy, you look so beautiful, you look so gorgeous.
Not a denial, not a confirmation. Silence. And in PR, silence from an airline that would normally jump at the chance to amplify positive A-list publicity is not neutral. Silence is a choice. Silence is a position. And in this case, silence is loud. Let's zoom out for a moment and look at what else was happening that same week, because the card does not exist in isolation. It exists inside a content calendar. The week of Meghan's BA 269 flight was not a quiet week for Sussex output. It was one of the busiest content weeks the Sussex operation had run in months. The wedding anniversary photo series dropped. The candle brand got a significant push. The Instagram presence had a visibility spike that any social media analyst would flag as coordinated rather than coincidental. Palace Confidential's panel wasn't reacting to one post. They were reacting to a full week of material that arrived with the precision of a planned campaign launch. The British Airways card was the emotional anchor of that week. It was the human moment, the touching detail, the thing that made the whole week feel personal rather than commercial.
I'm just surprised that she didn't turn around and say, and there was a moment when all of the crew dropped to their knees, they took off their hats and thanked me for the work that I've just done in Geneva, for my service that I've just committed to. She is honestly, she's a walking embarrassment with stuff like this because people can see through it all. Now, if you heard second, third hand that the crew had done something nice for her on the flight, then maybe it would have been, I guess, a bit more believable. A staff member perhaps did it for her or something.
A crew remembering where they were when Harry and Meghan got married. A captain taking a moment to acknowledge a love story. Champagne. A handwritten card. It is genuinely good content if you don't look at the details. But once you look at the details, the card stops being the soft human center of a sweet anniversary week. It becomes the most precisely placed piece in a very carefully assembled puzzle. The addressing puts both names on a card that only one person received. The captain's note demonstrates advanced knowledge of a personal milestone that strangers do not carry. The airline's own policy explains the mechanism. And the media rollout, People magazine exclusive, Hello Pickup, GB News follow, Instagram post happened with the kind of speed and coordination that organic moments do not produce. Here is the other thing worth sitting with. People magazine has been the primary outlet for Sussex Candid exclusive since 2017.
And the problem that I have, particularly with this now, or not my personal problem, but why I just think it's incredibly unwise of this couple to do this, is that increasingly at the center of this commercial operation is Lilibet. She is increasingly the cheese, the bait, the whatever you want to call it, to draw people into these photographs.
Not occasionally, consistently. When a Sussex moment happens and a source close to the Duchess of Sussex ends up quoted in a magazine within 24 hours, that magazine is almost always People. That is not a coincidence. That is a relationship. That is a preferred outlet, the kind of arrangement that exists between celebrity PR operations and specific publications, where the publication gets the exclusive and the subject gets the framing they want. It is completely standard in celebrity media. It is also completely invisible to anyone who reads the resulting article and takes the anonymous sourcing at face value. The People magazine article on the BA 269 card did not say a British Airways representative confirmed the gesture was spontaneous. It did not say a named crew member described the moment. It said, a source close to the Duchess of Sussex described what happened. One person, inside the Sussex operation, telling one magazine, with no independent verification from the airline itself. That is the entire evidentiary foundation for the version of events your timeline was handed. And Tom Sykes at the Daily Beast, who had just flown to Geneva to cover Meghan's speech in person, opened his anniversary write-up that week by noting that Meghan had done what Meghan does to mark an anniversary. That line was not a compliment.
Cannot believe it. When I saw it, I just thought, I don't believe this for a second, because she is well known amongst BA to be the worst passenger. She has a terrible reputation, and people can go back to my old video where I revealed all of this detail about how much she is hated on British Airways flights.
That was a journalist who had just spent money and time covering the Geneva appearance, watching the anniversary content roll out the very next morning, and noting the pattern he recognized from years of covering the same operation. Sykes knows the playbook. He was watching it run in real time. What does all of this actually mean? It means the BA 269 card is not really a story about a card. It is a story about how a public image gets managed in 2026. It is a story about how a moment gets built from the loyalty profile that surfaces the date, to the crew that writes the inscription, to the captain who adds his line, to the Instagram post that goes up the next morning, to the People magazine exclusive that drops that afternoon, to the Hello and GB News pickups that follow by evening. Every step in that chain has a clear explanation. Every step has a documented mechanism, and not one step requires the moment to have been spontaneous. The card is still on Meghan's Instagram right now. Go look at it, read the inscription. Look at the handwriting, the careful looped body text, and the captain's separate note in a different hand. Think about the flight.
It's your 8th wedding anniversary. This isn't a big, huge celebration. Catherine and William didn't make this much fuss when it was their 10th wedding anniversary. Everything is so contrived and so over the top.
Think about who was on it and who wasn't. Think about what a captain would have to know before pushback to write that line. Think about what British Airways' own privacy policy says about how crew access passenger data. Think about what Alison Boshoff said on camera. Think about what Richard Eden said sitting next to her. Think about the week's content calendar, the candle launch, the photo drop, the anniversary push, all of it arriving in the same 7-day window with the card at the emotional center. And then ask yourself the question that British Airways, People magazine, and the source close to the Duchess of Sussex have all, in their different ways, declined to answer directly. Was this spontaneous? Because 3 things on that card, the addressing, the captain's note, and the airline's own documented data policy, when read together against the backdrop of a week of coordinated brand content and a press office that went silent when the obvious question was asked, point in one direction. And it is not toward a flight crew who just felt like doing something sweet. That is the BA 269 card. That is where the official version stops holding up. That is how a candid Sussex moment actually gets built, not by accident, not by surprise, but by a card with a name on it that has no business being there, a captain's signature that already knew the date, and an airline that, when the most obvious question was put to them directly, chose to say absolutely nothing at all. Now it is your turn. Drop your verdict in the comments: spontaneous gesture from a crew who genuinely wanted to make a passenger's day, or a carefully constructed moment that arrived in your feed fully polished and right on schedule. The evidence is all there. Which way does it land for you? Every single comment gets read. If this breakdown gave you something to think about, hit that like button. It makes a real difference in getting this kind of detailed analysis in front of people who actually want to look past the headline. Share it with someone who follows this story. And if you are not subscribed yet, this is the moment, because what is coming next makes the BA 269 card look like the warm-up. Next up, we are going through 7 different Sussex candid moments since 2017 that all surfaced in the same magazine, through the same anonymous source, in the same 2 4-hour window. 7 moments, 1 playbook, and a paper trail that goes back almost a decade. Same strategy, different week, and every single one of them lands the same way once you read the details properly. You will want to see that one. See you on the next one.